Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Jeff Cox. I'm the Associate Vice Chancellor for Faculty Affairs. The Office of Faculty Affairs is charged with handling the academic review of the School of Journalism and Mass Communication. As we'll talk about in a minute, that process involves two committees and two separate processes, and we'll talk more about those. I have with me today some members of the campus's Program Discontinuance Committee, which is composed of the members of the Standing Program Review Committee, and a subcommittee of that is with you today. So that's at my far right is Sam Fitch, Professor in Political Science, Bob Spencer, Professor of Psychology and Neuroscience, Debbie Hollis, Professor in University Libraries. It is supplemented by a number of university officers, the Dean of the Graduate School, who couldn't be with us today, who's on the committee to make sure that the concerns of graduate students and graduate programs are looked into, the Vice Chancellor for Equity, Diversity, and Community Engagement, who also is unavailable at this time, who looks into diversity issues. And with us is Mike Grant, the Associate Vice Chancellor for Undergraduate Education, who will obviously be thinking about issues that relate to undergraduates and undergraduate programs. So I'm sure everyone who has heard the terms program discontinuance is very concerned about what this means and what the implications are. There are two things, before we get into kind of process issues, two things that you need to know. The first is that no decision has been made about what the campus will do in relation to the School of Journalism and Mass Communication, despite headlines claiming that we were closing the journalism school and so on. No such decision has been made. Instead, what occurred was at the beginning of the semester, the Chancellor asked that the investigation into program discontinuance begin. The Chancellor has not made up his mind. The Provost has not made up his mind. This committee has certainly not made up its mind. And that's why we're having these open meetings, which is to get input from various constituencies on campus as we make recommendations and decisions. The second thing that's very important for students to know, and I hope this has already been communicated to you, is that the campus has made a commitment that all students currently in the School of Journalism or the pre-admit students for the School of Journalism will be allowed to complete your degree programs. So even if in the course of this year the Board of Regents were to decide to close the School of Journalism and Mass Communication, the academic programs would be up and running until you've completed your work. The best estimate is that after this year we would be up and running for another 3 years, even if we were transitioning into a different model or moving away from a traditional journalism school. So you personally, in terms of your ability to get your degree, do not need to be concerned. That doesn't mean you're not interested in the future of the School of Journalism, of course, but your own future as a degree candidate is not at risk. Okay, so how did we get here today? The Chancellor at the beginning of the semester wrote to the Provost and to myself asking that two different processes be begun. One is the formal process of program discontinuance, which I'll come back to. The other was to form an Information, Communication, and Technology Exploratory Committee. This is a faculty committee that has been charged with a very high-level investigation of where the campus should move in this large area of information, communication, and technology that obviously includes journalism and mass communications, digital media, digital humanities, digital arts, information systems in the College of Business, and all sorts of other entities. That committee is chaired by Professor Merrill Leslie, a member of the Department of Theater and Dance, who's a former interim chancellor of the Colorado Springs campus, a former vice chancellor for academic affairs, and at San Diego State, a former dean of a school of professional education that included its journalism program. So he's someone with a great deal of administrative experience and a direct knowledge of journalism. That faculty committee will be engaged in a kind of visioning process, a kind of attempt to find out where the campus should head in the future. It will be holding its own open meetings in its own specific meetings. We're trying to get through the set of initial meetings for program discontinuance before we announce those, so that there isn't a confusion about the purposes of these meetings. But do look for announcements for those meetings. They will want to hear from you as well about your thoughts about where we should move. There will be shortly available, and I'm not sure exactly where it will lodge, but probably on the site of the provost, a website that will keep you updated on the processes, these two processes that are underway. That committee has an initial deadline of December 31st of reporting its recommendations to the provost. That committee's report will then be reviewed by the provost, and it will be accepted by the provost and made public in early February in the spring. This committee, on the other hand, has a much shorter time span within which to work. Program discontinuance is a process mandated by the Board of Regents. In the past, the university could eliminate programs, but there was no clear process by which those decisions were made. So approximately 5 years ago, the Regents mandated that each campus create a policy that would put in action a set of principles around program discontinuance that basically ensured that the university community was consulted if there was a program that was under review for possible discontinuance. So when an officer of the university, in this case the Chancellor, calls for a program discontinuance, an investigation is begun. Again, that doesn't mean he's decided one way or another. He is asking for a committee to review and to recommend whether their discontinuance should be pursued. The provost then makes a recommendation. The Chancellor then makes a decision, which is a recommendation to the President, and the President then makes a recommendation to the Board. The Board of Regents is the only body that could actually discontinue the school. This committee has a 60-day, under Regent rules, has 60 days to complete its work. The Provost then has 30 days, the Chancellor 30 days, the President 30 days, and then it goes to the Board. Under the policy, an officer of the university can request an investigation under program discontinuance in 3 areas. The Chancellor asked the committee to look at 2 of these areas. One is budget issues. Those are largely matters of fact. The committee has requested information from the appropriate offices on campus for those facts. If people have comments on the budget, we're happy to hear about them, but in general, that's just questions of dollars in, dollars out. The other set of issues the Chancellor asked the committee to investigate are issues of strategic realignment. These are the 9 items listed on the sheet that you received as you came in. These are, so these are not, people keep thinking there's some list of charges against the School of Journalism. There is no such thing. There are a set of questions that essentially, or categories that we have to investigate, such as what's the relationship between the school and the core mission of the university, what resources are needed to make this a successful program, and so on. You can see on the list. So if you have comments about, you can talk about whatever you want, but if you have comments about those specific issues, those are issues the committee is required to address under Regent rules. As I indicated, the committee is a standing committee. These people did not volunteer to be involved in this process. They are not the ones who asked the process to begin. They are simply the diligent faculty members who got tasked to do this work. Under standard review policies on this campus and really any other campus, the faculty directly affected by the issue are automatically recused from the matter. We're continually asked, why isn't program discontinuance a process conducted by the journalism faculty? Well, it would kind of like be asking somebody to decide whether they should be fired. You obviously don't run review processes from the inside. You have to review from an external body. So this is the constituted body under campus policy. If you know students who couldn't be here today, or if there's something you wish to say you don't get a chance to say or didn't feel comfortable to say, we have an open email line, input@colorado.edu. It's on your sheet, and we're checking that email daily, and you are invited to send additional comments to us. So what we're going to do is just simply open the microphones. We ask that you come up and tell us who you are. You know, you're an undergrad, you're already in the program, you're looking to get in the program, you're a graduate student, and we're really just looking for any ideas, advice you have for the committee. If you have questions about the process, I'm also happy to answer those.
I'm a first-year grad student. I'm from Texas, so still kind of new to Colorado. I have a couple of questions about it, and my first question is, why was this done so shadily? I mean, y'all say that you've been talking about this for years. That's what all the newspapers have said. That's what the faculty has said. But they wait to say anything until like 2 days before my tuition is due. I moved up from Texas. I am paying more for tuition alone than I paid for tuition and housing and food and everything during my undergrad, because of this out-of-state stuff. And I move up here, I leave behind, I no longer have a boyfriend, I had to lease out my horse, like I lost my apartment back home, I don't have anything anymore because I moved up here, and then I get here and I get told that this program is getting shut down. Like, why was this not done in a manner that was more appropriate and more respectful to the students?
So, to begin with, of course, you will be allowed to complete your degrees so that your own degree program is not under threat, and no one's made any decision to shut down the School of Journalism. In relation to the timing, so there's been conversations both within and outside the School of Journalism about its organization for a long time, but the particular issue of program discontinuance was a decision made by the Chancellor at the point that he announced it. So it is not as if the Chancellor had made this decision at some previous moment and then sprung it on everybody. He had been engaged. He had been engaged in a deliberation, and he made his decision, and then he announced his decision.
He told the news stations before he told the faculty.
Well, I don't believe that that's actually true. I believe that that at the same time that the provost was meeting with the faculty, the Chancellor was speaking to a member of the press. But there had been leaks to the press from people who are not affiliated with university administration. There is no good time to make an announcement such as this, and there's always going to be someone who's is going to feel as if the timing had a bad effect on their decisions. But in terms of university processes, it was important that the Chancellor make the announcement. So we've been continually asked, well, why didn't the Chancellor make this announcement last April or May? Well, first of all, the Chancellor hadn't made his decision last April or May, but secondly, the university is, from a faculty perspective and a student perspective, largely shut down at the beginning of May. The administration's around. The administration could have run this process, but we wouldn't be able to have open meetings to which we could invite all of the students. And in point of fact, the faculty would have been furious if we had tried to run a major deliberative process when lots of faculty are traveling for research during the summer. So that I'm not going to argue about whether there wasn't a better possible moment, but a good moment is when the campus reconvenes at the beginning of the year, and with a very tight timeline so that people will be notified quickly as to what the decisions are being made as the process moves forward.
I'm not saying they should have started the process then. I am saying, though, that it would have been nice to have some warning. I mean, I don't feel like it was handled well at all. And then second, like, I understand that you guys don't want to be here, you know, that, like you said, that you have to be here. But I don't think it's right that that the journalism department doesn't have representation. How can someone who's outside the program tell us what we need? I mean, they've been citing in the newspapers about how they want to go more towards technology, and it seems that they're looking to get to remove most of the journalism aspect. But all this infotainment is exactly why we need this program, because we need to train journalists That's why we're here. That's why we came here, not to learn how to use this technology. I don't need to learn how to use Facebook or Twitter or anything like that. I already know that. I came here for the journalism skills. And if you take that out, you're removing the essence of the program.
Well, that so is exactly those kinds of points that this group would like to hear. Again, no one has made any decision about either what the future fate of the School of Journalism is or what any future programs would look like. So exactly the point you're making about the importance of journalism is the kind of comment this committee finds useful. As to why this is done out, all review processes are run outside of units. We run standard review processes on a cycle of all units on campus. Any member of any unit is recused from that process. This committee has met with the dean, with the faculty. It is receiving written responses from the faculty. It has the faculty self-study from its accreditation process. There is an enormous amount of input. They are obviously listening to the faculty. They're listening to students. The committee met with staff this morning. The information is coming from the people within the school. The deliberation occurs with a standing faculty committee that sits outside the school, and that's just a standard practice. Debbie?
So, Erin, what is it that you found compelling about this program that made you apply and want to relocate from Texas?
I like the faculty that they have. They're real working professionals. Like in a lot of other schools, the people learn how to teach, and that's all they know. They don't know how to teach you how to work in a real environment, and that's what these professors have. They have been there, and they know exactly what to do, and they can answer questions about things that people that have just learned, this is what you're supposed to do, and I can teach these people how to do it. They don't have that experience to tell other students, to teach the future of journalism that. I did have one more thing to say. I have read the comments that Looney has made to the newspapers, and I don't feel that we're getting a fair chance if someone who's supposed to be standing up for us is making those kind of negative comments. I mean, he said that, we're pretty much, pardon my French, but like biting ourselves in the ass and chasing our tails and ruining the school. And if that's who's supposed to be representing me, I don't feel comfortable with that at all. And I had opportunities to go to other schools that would have stood up for the program and that don't have someone who is supposed to be the face of us and supposed to stand up for us, who talks down to us like that. I mean, there's a great program here, and I hope that there are some changes to be made. I don't deny that. I feel that some of this stuff does need to be updated. I think that our representation is severely misguided and severely detrimental to the students that are in this program.
And appreciate that. And just to be clear, we don't consider any individual the spokesperson for the students, the faculty, or the school. That's why we're here to listen to all of you.
Okay, he was named something. I forget what exactly. I was more enraged at the comments that he made when I felt it was disrespectful.
It's another set of comments, equally valuable as your set of comments.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Paul Bake. I'm a first-year master's student. Worked in journalism for over 20 years and decided to come back to school. I think most of us believe the school will be closed and become something else. I don't think you would embark on this process if there was not a very good chance that is what's going to happen. So we'll proceed with that assumption that that this school will be terminated and it will become something else. I think that's what we're all operating on. I just want to ask you a few things. It'd be nice to see a journalist on the committee, a working journalist, a respected journalist on the committee. I understand it's formed, but I think we'd have a little bit more confidence that the day-to-day concerns of journalism students were being represented if there were a journalist on the committee. I'd like to add my voice to those who say they'd like to see journalism in the title of the new school, whatever it becomes. Information can be a lot of things. Journalism is something different. And I think many of us would like to see the word journalism in the title. I'd like to ask you to, in your work, consult with journalists and consult with faculty and staff at other journalism programs to see how they're doing it. That may be part of your plan, but I just like to recommend that you look at other well-respected journalism schools, see how they're doing it, talk to them, ask them where they made mistakes, what would they have done differently, to get that wealth of knowledge into the process rather than just being a little bit more insulated here at school. And I'd like you to continue to ask faculty and staff throughout the process to backstop you, to be a sounding board as you start making decisions, as this starts to take shape, to bring those plans back to faculty and students, maybe have more meetings like this where we can say, here's the direction we may be going, what do you think about that? So that we can act as a check and a balance along the way. And it can also eliminate surprises down the road. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi folks, how you doing? My name's Gary Stump. I'm a first semester grad student. You guys are looking very somber today. And get with the janitor to pump some laughing gas through the AC system or something maybe. What I need to ask you guys is, I'm not really so much concerned about what's happening to the program right now, because number one, I'm very confident in the teaching that I'm getting. But what I'm curious about is like 10 years down the line when, say, somebody's going back to reference or cite my school experience and they give the University of Colorado a jingle and say, hey, Gary Stump, did he actually graduate from the school? And they say, it doesn't exist. Pal, you're like 10 years too late. So that's what I'm concerned about is like down the road, how legitimate is my degree going to appear to a potential employer, somebody who I need information from, et cetera?
So the university will obviously maintain all the records of students. So if the question is, did you actually graduate in good standing, the answer will be yes. You will have graduated as a member of an accredited journalism school, so that degree is not, any future decision by the campus does not have any, it's not like they're a retroactive revocation of degrees. I mean, the example I used at yesterday's session is lots of campuses around the country are shutting down their classics programs, often for budgetary reasons. It doesn't, if X university stops teaching classics, it doesn't invalidate the discipline of classics. It doesn't invalidate somebody's prior degree in classics. If that was a good classics program, they got a good degree. Universities change and transform. The biology departments have had how many different configurations and names over time? Okay. They're under the rules of program discontinuance. We are required to try to move the current tenured faculty into other locations on campus. So it may be, there may not be a School of Journalism and Mass Communication, but your professors may very well still be members of the faculty that could be contacted. So I understand why it's a concern, but I think that and I guess if I were you, I'd be worried about it as well, because who knows how people are going to read these things. But the university will obviously make every effort to make sure that people understand that what happens in the future doesn't have any impact on the people that are done.
Sure, I'm just worried about the continuity. So down the line, is that there's going to be something for somebody to go back and reference, somebody that they can talk to, because I'm just worried about it becoming a complete black hole. It doesn't exist anymore because people are going to get the impression that maybe it was incompetent or something of that nature. So I'm just concerned about the legitimacy of what it is that I'm going to achieve.
Yeah, well, again, the fact that you're in an accredited program kind of answers that question.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
My name is Valerie Irwin. I'm an undergraduate pursuing an advertising degree. You already mentioned that other schools around the country are doing this with their journalism schools, updating their curriculum. I think that all the students recognize that and think that's a wonderful thing. You know, that's really great that we're moving forward and updating our technology and the studies, and that's wonderful. But in particular, I feel like, and a lot of other students feel like, our situation is a little bit more volatile than other schools. Other schools haven't discontinued their programs, they've just continued to move forward and update curriculum. So I'm kind of wondering, what's the primary reason for our discontinuance versus other schools? Is it budgetary? Just kind of want to know why it's so volatile.
So again, the program hasn't been discontinued. It's just an investigation into discontinuance. But and of course, this committee is not experts on the status of journalism in the U.S., but of course there are places that have shut down significant portions, or in some cases their entire journalism program. So Berkeley, for example, has ceased to offer an undergraduate degree in journalism. It still offers graduate degrees in journalism, and it offers certificate programs, but it closed its undergraduate degree. So the universities are constantly transforming the programs that they have in place. We have to go through a process, because the Board of Regents tell us we have to go through a process that has this name, program discontinuance. If the title of the program, if the title of the policy was program reinvention, I think the level of anxiety wouldn't be as high as it is. But we don't make those decisions. Those are decided by your elected representatives on the Board of Regents. And that's what they've called this process, and it is a required process if we want to consider reconfiguring in a major way a unit on campus. So in another campus, it might be called by a different name. It might just be a less public and less transparent move to do something quite similar.
Hi, my name is Darcy Nolan. I'm an upper division transfer student. I've also spent the last 3 years doing freelance work, mostly in Africa and Asia, and I run and operate an international media company that I started a couple of years ago. It's from each of those perspectives that I want to address this today. First, as a student, the primary reason I'm here is because of the journalism program. I want to take the time to become the best journalist I can be, and I felt like CU was going to be able to offer that to me. To me, that means that I'll be able to think critically about world events. I will be able to research, process, and represent these events to others because of my education here. I will also be critiqued from an experienced staff to be able to improve what I do and offer the best that I can. I will also leave university with a degree that accurately represents my chosen direction, which, as the other guy mentioned, keeping journalism in the title is much more accurate. I'm excited over specific possibilities like the environmental journalism or the international media certificate. I believe these are the things that are going to attract students, help students specialize, and be able to offer the most when they leave school. As a field worker, I wanted to come back to school because I felt like it'd have a great value with the experience that I have with other editors. The experience I get from the faculty here is going to be what I can then translate into what I offer. And I didn't want to be just another citizen with a camera phone, but I want to be a member of the media that can dissect what's happening and represent that to the rest of society. As a business owner, I can tell you that I look for freelancers who know how to think and present their thoughts very clearly, who offer me a full package in terms of writing, multimedia, and follow-through. And they also offer a deeper level of expression that I would get from an observer on the street. A great program here at the school would produce students that could be counted on to have a deep knowledge of the subjects they write about, like I mentioned, the environmental track or the IMC. Students that knew how to analyze events in context, find research information, access experts, as well as think critically about actions and potential outcomes. So I just wanted to let you guys know, as a student, I'm willing to work really hard to be a great journalist, and I'd like to know that my staff and the faculty of my program are behind me in that, and they're willing to work really hard to see me succeed as well.
Thank you very much.
Need this like a little higher. How do I do that? Oh. Hi, I'm Greg Lewis. I'm a freshman in pre-journalism right now. I guess I was really glad to hear that I can still sign up for this school and get in, but I guess what I wanted to know is what's going to happen with the professors and the classes that are offered while I'm there. Am I going to get the same quality of education that I was hoping to get when I applied to CU and came to CU? If it's basically like the program's falling apart around me?
No, so the provost and the chancellor have already made it clear that we will keep the academic programs in place until our current student body is able to complete their work. Now, Today, there's a School of Journalism and Mass Communication. There is a School of Journalism and Mass Communication up until the point when the Board of Regents says it's discontinued. There then is a multi-year process before we could actually shut anything down. So during that period, the school will be there just as it was yesterday, just as it was last spring. The most likely outcome from my own personal point of view is that if there's a change, there will be something that it's evolving towards, so that it's not as if there's going to be some massive disruption in the world. It's just going to be, there's going to be some changes. We have obligations to the tenured faculty under Regents rules, and of course the faculty itself is very interested in protecting its colleagues under the tenure system. So I think you can be assured that you will continue to get the program that you came to study within. The real question being asked is, will we continue to bring students in? So that's, again, one reason why you have to announce at some point you're going to consider this, because if at some point we decide we're not going to offer the current degree plans or not offer it under the current administrative structure, we have to stop admitting students into a School of Journalism and Mass Communication and maybe admit them somewhere else. Because we have a commitment, we can't bring in students and then pull the rug out from under them. We're not going to do that. So if we're going to change, at some point we have to stop the admission process that we've been running and start something new. But you all are fine.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and use this mic since it's a little less awkward than the one over there. My name is Benjamin Thevenin. I'm a second-year PhD student in media studies. And first of all, I appreciate the opportunity to come and kind of share our perspective. Now, from my understanding, last year there was a committee formed that basically its purpose was to explore the possibility of creating a school of information that would be somehow related to the SJMC. And that committee was at least partially comprised of SJMC faculty. Now, if I understood it correctly, the general consensus among the faculty on that committee was that the creation of such a new school would negatively affect the SJMC, its students, its faculty, in that it might siphon off resources, funding, faculty from our program to a program that doesn't share its values, and those values specifically being this kind of wedding of critical media studies with things like technical expertise and professional experience. Now, since that committee last year made that decision, these two new committees have been created, the program Discontinuance and this exploratory committee to create this information communication technology school. So I guess while I appreciate the opportunity to come and kind of share our perspective, I can't help but wonder what our role as students, and I guess also the faculty's role in this process is. If last year the tenured faculty kind of shared their dissatisfaction with such a change, the creation of a new school, and then were subsequently met with their removal from this process, the creation of two new committees on which they're not represented that essentially decide the fate of the departments in the school. I wonder then what chance we have to intervene or to affect the results of these committees. That is not to say that this committee is responsible for those actions. I understand your role. I just wonder, I don't know, I guess I'm just disenchanted with the university in the way in which it seems to undermine our faculty's efforts to shape a program and maintain a program that's consistent with the values that we hold by essentially removing them from the process.
So again, we have two processes. Program discontinuance as a process cannot include on the committee members of the unit.
I'm completely
under
aware
review.
of that, yeah.
So we just cannot do it, but the committee is making every effort to get as much input from the faculty, students, staff, and alumni. There's a meeting with alumni next week as possible. So in essence, this is a campus faculty committee that has a fact-finding duty, and they're spending a lot of time doing it. Obviously, the desire is to get as much input from people as possible. Again, they are tasked with responding to a set of issues set forth by the Board of Regents. It's not, again, something that is appropriately answered by an internal body. It by necessity has to be handled externally. So there's really no relationship between last year's College of Information Task Force and this group. There would seem to be more connection between that and the Exploratory Committee. So there was a committee last year, a task force co-chaired by the Dean of Journalism that had one other member from journalism on it, 2 other members of journalism on it, some members from computer science, some representatives of Atlas, and some other faculty. It issued a report at the end of the year that was not received with great affirmation by bodies on campus. So that report was not adopted by the provost and the chancellor. The provost and the chancellor, however, are interested in hearing from the campus about possible future new directions in this large area that we have a problem naming that includes all these different disciplines. So a decision was made to put together a faculty committee that was not made up of interest groups. So you can form a committee on the basis of picking out representatives of various faculty groups, and then of course the faculty always argues that those people aren't really representative of them. But we could say, here are the 5 stakeholders, and we're going to have 2 from here and 3 from there, and you guys go duke it out. But instead, a decision was made to put in a more or less neutral exploratory committee of people on campus who do not have a direct vested interest in either continuing the current structures or in a new structure. They do have an intellectual interest, and in the case of the chair of the committee, an administrative knowledge of the players in the area, but they are more disinterested faculty members, and their job is to convene the interested faculty on campus that does not just include members of the School of Journalism. It includes a much broader array of faculty around campus and students around campus to try to get their input as to where we should go. So you were asking, do you have any role in this process? So this is a fact-finding committee trying to find out the strengths and weaknesses of the School of Journalism. We've heard people addressing what they see as the strengths, and that's valuable information for the committee. The other committee will hold similar meetings, and what they want to know is from scholars such as, rising scholars such as yourself, where do you see these fields going? Now, your answer may be they should be exactly as they are now with a tweak. I mean, no one believes everything should be frozen in time, but that you believe we have the correctly constituted programs with the kinds of changes that could be made internally, or you may feel that we really need to think in a wild and crazy new way, and somebody else may say this needs to have a heavier technology component. Other people are going to say, wait a minute, we really should be thinking about the humanities and arts components. So they, again, have no preconceptions about where they're headed. So what they're inviting you to do is to give them your best ideas. And, we can all be disenchanted, but you have to believe that these are serious people who are interested in hearing serious comments. And they, again, are not people who have made up their minds or, have a dog in this hunt. They want to hear from you all about what they should do.
Again, I just want to emphasize that none of this criticism is directed at the members of the committee.
No,
it's more just kind of the process that I've seen unfold over the past year and a half, 2 years. Is that, and while you say that the last year's committee and this year's, both of their committees are somewhat unrelated, I can't help but think that there was a need seen in the university at whatever level that there needs to be a re-envision or a reinvention of the journalism program. They went to the journalism, at least some representatives of that program, to see if this would be a possible result. When they weren't happy with the response that they got, so then they went ahead and went on to this program, which is not to say that something great couldn't come of this. I'm all for a reinvention of the program, as long as the interests and the values of the current program are continued. And so.
Great, thank you.
Hello, my name is Olga, third-year PhD student, and I don't have a personal issue here, because first, you guarantee that I will be able to finish, and second, because I'm thinking about something else. So I'm from Ukraine, and I have been working as a journalist since 1991, since the Soviet Union collapsed. And since that time, my very deep interest is global misunderstanding. I was at Yugoslavia War. I was wounded there in 1992. And this is my very serious interest. And I participated in different journalism programs through my life, organized by the Department of State, by CNN, BBC, whatever. And I want to say that this program is something unique. This is really excellent in terms of critical thinking and cultural understanding. Because for me, this is very important, why people cannot find common language. For me, it's important why we cannot solve our global problems. We cannot solve the problem of poverty, the problem of war, the problem of illnesses, whatever. And for me, this program gives an excellent opportunity to understand these issues in comparison to other traditional programs. And my very deep understanding that no information technologies can help us understand that. And that's why, if you want to organize, reorganize something, whatever, you should keep in mind, this is my opinion, I'm sorry, probably I shouldn't say you should, but, you know, we just shouldn't kill this seed of critical attitude, of cultural attitude, of multicultural attitude, which exists in this school. So this is what really bothers me, because I want to repeat, I'm not concerned about my fate. You know, in comparison of the demise of the Soviet Union, nothing could surprise me, even if I'm not allowed to finish my program. But we have to think about these issues. Really, it's not, I'm not a politician here. I'm not, you know, going to your parliament. I'm thinking about that, and that's why I came here, because other professors from other departments from this country advised me to do that. And I learned so many things. This program is really interdisciplinary. And I have an opportunity to attend political science courses, which are extremely useful for me. I have an opportunity to attend different courses. And, you know, this critical attitude, this is really something unique. I've never met anything like that at any other journalism program during my long life. So just take, please, this into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Matt Himmendinger. I'm a second-year research track master's candidate. At risk of becoming the least popular person in the whole room, I'll be honest. I was excited when this news first came out. I saw opportunity. I saw this as a chance for the school to expand, to partner with other programs that are similar to us, poli-sci, psychology, communication, sociology. I've spent a year reading the literature from these other departments within my journalism program. I thought this was going to be the perfect opportunity for us to partner with these other programs, for us to use programs like the CEJ, the Environmental Studies program in the journalism school, for the newly developed test kitchen. And more as I learn about this program, I'm coming to understand that this is not the direction we're headed in. We don't have these opportunities because this is about money. And it disgusts me to see a building going up right in the backyard of the journalism school that I'm guessing cost a lot more than all the faculty salaries in the journalism school combined. We're putting up a building in their backyard. Meanwhile, we're threatening a very large handful of faculty with their termination. And that disappoints me. I've been told over and over again that I'm not at threat here. I'm not at all, I don't stand anything to lose anything. But what if my committee chairperson is one of these cuts? Who will replace my committee chairperson? And where will that chairperson go? That's what disappoints me, and that's what leaves me most fearful, is that we have a lot of very talented individuals within this program, and a lot of very talented individuals that have skills that would be very transferable into a new journalism program that incorporates other studies. But I don't see that coming together. I see the dissolution of a very important program. and I see nothing being built in its place. The idea of moving into just a technology-focused program, it is important that we understand the new technologies, but there's a lot of skills that will be lost along the way. The idea of training a journalist to work just as a print reporter, yes, that's outdated. And training him solely to publish online, that is not the answer either. But at the same time, we need to find some middle ground that retains the skills and the expertise that's housed in the journalism school. And I don't see where that's going. So if you'd like to respond to that, I'd love to hear that my concerns are not to be worried about.
Well, so again, in terms of the future of particular faculty members, no one is eliminating any faculty positions as a result of this process. If the program was shut down, it was discontinued, under program discontinuance, the Chancellor has the obligation to try to place the tenured faculty in other units. That doesn't always work out. People sometimes don't want to move. They want to move somewhere else.
To interject very briefly, I am very likely to have a non-tenured professor chairing my thesis.
Well, and there's, of course, a different relationship with non-tenured faculty. They're under term contracts, so that they're protected under their term contracts. They would have to receive tenure to have the protections of tenure. So, again, there's this process, the Chancellor did not ask, and certainly this committee has no role in budget cutting. This is not a process about cutting budgets. That's not what they've been asked to do. If budgets are cut, that's a different decision.
But the result of these actions would, in the end, save money, correct?
Sam, you want to say something?
Not necessarily. That is a question to be investigated, because journalism, in fact, with a very large number of undergraduate majors, brings in very substantial tuition revenues to the campus. Sorry. So journalism brings large tuition revenues to the campus by virtue of its undergraduate programs. Again, there may be questions about how to deliver that program more effectively, more efficiently, how to promote excellence with the resources that are currently devoted to journalism. But certainly for the members of the committee, our mandate really wasn't to say, compare how much we can save by cutting journalism compared to cutting the School of Law, for example. We will look at a variety of information, including what we can find out, which is not always easy to do, exactly what money comes in and what money goes out and what the school spends its money for. But I don't think just saving money or making particular cuts is something we feel compelled in this process to make that our priority. The question is, from the campus's perspective, is this something that we should be doing? Is it something that we can't afford to do? Is there some better way to do it? I think is where most of the attention is at the moment.
And on your second question, whether anyone's going to listen to, the non-technology side. So there's a lot of commentary around this process that stresses technology. The campus hasn't said anything about the shape of the future program. It hasn't said it's going to be a technology-based program. It hasn't said it's going to be a classic School of Information kind of combination of library science and computer science. It said nothing. It said nothing. The fact that the committee is chaired by a dance professor does not suggest necessarily a bias towards technology over other concerns. I think that what you should do is attend the open sessions of that body and express your thoughts on the kinds of educational programs and the kinds of research that should be done to create a cutting-edge program in this large area that has technology as a piece of it, journalism a piece of it, digital arts is a piece of it, business practices is a piece of it. It is a very large and complex area of intellectual pursuit, and there is no pre-decision as to what that thing is going to look like. And the odds are it will actually look like a number of things. There's nothing that says we have to create one track that we're going to squeeze everybody into. So I think you're going to have to take it on faith that this is really an open question, and it's important that you get involved in the process of letting people know what you believe it should look like.
Okay. Well, to answer your open question, I'd like to really encourage you to expand, not contract. That there's a lot of great programs in here that can partner with other departments across campus, and I see tremendous opportunity in that. Eliminating the journalism school, to disband it, to abandon anything that we have currently going would be sacrificing a lot of great resources, and that there's some great opportunity. And I'm not intimately involved with the CEJ, but I know that they work on a lot of very interesting projects. I've been working with Paul Vokes in the Digital Test Kitchen, and that's brought me in contact with business school professors. And I'm very excited to see us working together, because one of my personal always constant pet peeves is that you don't get out to enough different departments, and I think that this program provides a great opportunity for that. So I'll leave you with my request: expand, do not contract. Let's go to the legislature and let's get some more money for this school. I know they have very, very tight pockets, but it's time that they spent some more money on higher education in Colorado.
Thank you.
Hey, my name is Wes Gentry. I'm a first-year master's student in the journalism school, and I kind of wanted to pose more of a hypothetical and see how you guys respond to it. I was glad that you spoke to the fate, if discontinuance is pursued, of tenured faculty. But as far as untenured faculty, non-tenured faculty, associate professors, instructors, things of this nature, if that process is pursued, what's to keep those professors, instructors who really do a lot of work around the school, and probably, in some ways, in a one-on-one sense, more than tenured faculty? What's to protect us as students from losing them during the course of our schoolwork? Because it stands to reason that if discontinuance is pursued, if I was an associate professor, if I was an instructor, they got to look for another job, prospectively. I mean, you haven't made any determinations as far as that goes, but that's definitely a possibility. So, as far as it concerns us as students, who's to say 2 years down the line, if you guys decide to continue or to pursue discontinuance, that assistant professors, instructors won't jump ship and leave us understaffed, things of this nature?
Well, of course, everyone's a free agent. We don't control people's behavior. We have obligations to people. They have different obligations to us and less obligations to us. So again, assistant professors are under term contracts, 4-year contracts or 3-year contracts, 4-year contracts before they go through comprehensive review, 3 years after that, which time they stand for tenure. Those are binding on the university, so that if somebody just began this year on a 4-year contract, they will be here for 4 years if they want to. On the other hand, they could leave. Of course, they could have left under any circumstance. We have like any university, we have a turnover of somewhere about 5 to 7% of the faculty turnover on an annual basis across the campus. There's actually a slightly higher turnover within recent years in the School of Journalism and Mass Communication. So there's nothing, the entire faculty could say it wants to leave. I find that unlikely in the current job market, but it's always possible. Instructors, there are 3, so I know you all don't care about all the technicalities, but there are 3 people who are rostered instructors. The university has certain kinds of due processes for protecting instructors, and as you say, they do an enormous amount of work for the school. As long as the academic programs are up and they're performing their jobs, I'm sure they'll be offered employment. Again, they could decide to leave. We would find someone else qualified to fill those positions. There are approximately 30 adjunct faculty. Now, adjunct faculty are hired on a course-by-course basis. Those people have only a very temporary responsibility. They basically have said, I'll come in and teach this class. The university only has an obligation to them to pay them to teach that class. I understand a lot of those people have been doing this for long periods of time. A lot of them have a job in industry and are teaching back here part-time. Some of them are retired from industry and are teaching part-time. Those are relationships that, again, I would imagine in a transition period would be maintained. If they weren't, it would be necessary for the university to go out and recruit people to replace them. We will make sure you get the degree programs you need. So there's certain requirements under your degree program that, stuff we're learning, like, we can't run classes above X size because of accreditation rules. Okay, so we have to mount a certain number of classes. We got to go hire people to teach those classes. Whether it's the exact same people, who knows? But that's true anyway.
Sure. Yeah, that's all I had.
Yeah.
First of all, thanks for taking the time to listen to us. My name is John Lumpkin. I'm a first-year doctoral student here. This is my second year at CU. I've also been teaching at the university level journalism for this is my fourth year. My background, I was a reporter for about 10 years before that, including a stint with the Associated Press in Washington, D.C. as a national security reporter. I covered 9/11. I've been to Iraq and Afghanistan. First of all, I don't see evidence of the dysfunction that has been described of the school. So take that for what it's worth. And then I've got, I guess, a point or question about the structure. It seems the root question, the thing I would like an answer to, I think a lot of us would like the answer to, is do we get to keep having journalism here? I know my degree is protected. I'm very clear on that. And it seems like there's, the two committees are kind of answering parts of that. And that's a little, it's a little difficult to kind of figure out how that works from my perspective.
From ours, too.
Okay. So I guess for you all, I'd ask, can you guys have a conditional finding? In other words, the school should go away if some journalism program can continue. Is that within your charter, within your bounds?
Yes.
Okay. I'm teaching a 1001 class this year, and this is register a complaint about how the process has come out. For about I think it was 2 days, their status as pre-journalism was in limbo because this announcement came out and there wasn't anything about their welfare, whether they could apply to the school or not. That left, and this is the first week of school, that left a lot of my students very unhappy. I guess just take that as feedback for the next time something like this happens. Please consider their welfare before you make an announcement of this magnitude. Beyond that, back to my question, should we have journalism here? Yes, I feel we should. And I guess, in what form then? And the question I would, or the way I look at it, and can kind of come at journalism, there's two sides to a journalism education. There's the principles, and then there's the presentation. And you need both to create journalists. Principles is ethics, it's the mission, it's critical thinking. Presentation is all these nifty high-tech skills we have to teach, whether it's blogging or methods of photography, internet, all of that. Both are vital, but one without the other, you're not making journalists. And I fear, and again, obviously nothing's been decided, I fear that too much of a focus on the technological end, and you won't be creating journalists in a proper mold, you'll be creating electron pushers. And so I would say whatever is new, whatever, if you're able to say in a conditional fashion, the school can go away if these principles are left in place, I'm fine there. My point is if we stop making journalists in a critical thinking and an ethical way, and that hurts the democracy. It does. And you know, when I first got into journalism, the thing that drew me to it and kept me in it was the mission. And the mission, it wasn't to make money, it wasn't to protect the wealthy, it was to seek the truth and remove myself from a political process so my work could be unassailable. It's a mission of service, and I feel that if journalism goes away from this campus, it hurts the Republic. Not to a great deal, I mean, but it does hurt, and I don't want to see that happen. So, thank you.
John, two
Yes.
questions. Where did you do your undergraduate?
TCU in Fort Worth, Texas.
And did you major in journalism?
I did, news editorial.
And then when you were looking at programs to come, what was it about CU's program that drew you here?
To make myself into a professor of journalism, I needed to be able to draw both from my experience in the industry, but to be able to find perspectives kind of from the outside as well, and from sociology, from political science. And the program here seemed to offer that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jessica Ryan. I'm a sophomore media studies major, and I'd just like to jump the gun and answer why I'm at CU as well for journalism. I'm an in-state student and can't afford to go out of state, and I know that there are a ton of out-of-state students who come here for journalism. When looking at other schools like CSU or UNC, CU definitely is top-notch for journalism in the state. We're the flagship university for other departments as well, but for journalism, we definitely are, and I've wanted to be a journalist since I was like 10. So the email that you sent us on Thursday of last week, you said that you are especially interested in knowing of what we think of the current journalism program, and then I was also handed a sheet that said with like guidelines for discussion, and one of them was marketplace demand for the program.
Mm-hmm.
The current media are definitely in trouble. Look at the way they've been covering this story. Sensationalism. J-school closing. The world is ending. And to me, that shows that there's definitely a demand for this. We need, so there's definitely a demand for good journalists who care about journalistic values like the truth, like the public, like ethics. There's a huge demand for those things, and we need to care about those things instead of page views or profits. And I think that at SJMC right now, we've been taught these values. I know that it's our responsibility to go into the world and keep doing those things. And I know I'm just a sophomore and I've taken like 3 or 4 journalism classes and that's it. But from my experience, even in those most basic of classes, we are being taught to hold ethics to the highest of our values and to care more about the truth and about journalism and about real things than making money or listening to our corporate sponsors of our newspaper or whatever. But I also would like to see a revision of the curriculum. I think for me, it's really frustrating having to take a class about like contemporary mass media, just because I have wanted to do journalism for so long that in high school I took principles of journalism type classes. And so then to sit through a whole semester where I'm hearing the stuff that I learned my freshman year of high school and very, very little new information, it's really frustrating to me to be paying that money to be taking the same classes I took in high school. However, I think that there are students who haven't taken those classes and who need to know these things. They need to learn about the principles of journalism. So I don't know how to do that logistically, but I think that there should be some sort of consideration of who, like, a way to test out of these kind of classes, I guess, like how you would be able to test out of an intro chemistry class. So, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Hi, I'm Shannon Sindorf. I'm a first-year doctoral student in the SJMC. First off, thanks for taking our input. I have a lot to say about this, but I think that my fellow graduate students have done a good job articulating my concerns. So I really just have a couple questions. Everyone's talking about this discontinuance thing as if you're just going to come back and say, close the school. Because why would there be these two committees going on at the same time, you know? So everyone's kind of assuming that. I want to know, is there really a possibility that you guys could come back and say, no, don't close the school, it's fine?
Yes, there's a real possibility.
Oh, really? Okay. So this isn't just like, people have been talking about it as it's a formality. We have to do the discontinuance thing before we can create something new. Well, is it possible that they're just going to say, it's fine, you know?
So let me make it clear. This committee is a faculty committee. You don't take anything for granted with a faculty committee. No one tells the faculty what to think or to do. The faculty are going to listen to the evidence and make an independent judgment. What the final action by the Board of Regents is a...
Okay.
But
so the
campus leadership, the committee could say the School of Journalism is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and it is possible. It's advisory to campus leadership and to the board. That doesn't mean that it's binding. However, I mean, you can either believe me or not. Campus leadership has not decided whether to discontinue the School of Journalism and Mass Communication. This is not a setup. I wouldn't ask my colleagues to do all this hard work if I believed that they were just a front for a pre-made administrative decision. So, but there is a practical question involved, which is that if the campus wishes to move forward, and if we have limited resources, and in the first instance limited human resources, it may be possible that we need to shut down a current entity, the School of Journalism, in order to create something new. In one sense, this process gives the campus a tool that it may need to exercise. But it is possible at the end of the day we say, with the resources we have, we can't do any, we got a great program, we're not going to create something else, we're not going to risk what we've got on a gamble, and we're just going to go merrily ahead. This is not a predetermined decision.
Okay, thank you. Second question. As graduate students, a large part, if not most, of our resources here are the faculty. And you say that the university has an obligation to try to find other homes for the tenured faculty in other units on campus. How does that work? I mean, do they just, can they force faculty on other departments? Can they just say, oh, we suggest you go to comm, and comm says, no, I don't want you? Like, how does that, how likely is it that they'll actually be able to stick around?
Well, I can't and wouldn't address it on a case-by-case basis. So I can give you a practical example and then tell you a little bit about the process. So we in recent memory, we've only shut down one other tenure-bearing program, the interdisciplinary telecom program. I think there were 4 faculty members in it. 3 of them were housed into other units on campus, and 1 chose to go to another university. So it was a person-by-person negotiation between the individual and the unit. It is not the case that the campus can say, we're going to take Mike and put him in the English department, and the English department has to take Mike. It requires a vote of the receiving faculty. So you have to be tenured in a faculty. So if I'm a tenured faculty member and I want to move my tenure home from English to physics, I have to convince the physics department that I am tenurable in a physics department. So there is a intellectual or academic or credentialing issue about moving anyone. The other side of any move is obviously a budget one. So if the move of the line is budget neutral, that is, if the campus says these people's salary moves with them, then that's off the table, right? Because it doesn't cost a unit anything to receive a faculty member if they carry their own budget. So there's a budget question and an intellectual question. So we can't, and we can't guarantee, we could say, we might say, we imagine all of you have a home somewhere, all the faculty have a home somewhere, and the faculty could tell us, no, we don't, you're wrong, we don't belong in that unit, I'd rather move. I mean, that's their personal decision.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
I have another question. We've pretty much been coming up here and telling you what we think of the program. I want to know, do y'all have any specific concerns about the program that you want to ask the students or anyone that's here that we can answer? I mean, anyone else can feel free to answer. I was just wondering if, because I feel like we're the best people to answer that, and if we're all here, you might as well ask us questions too. So.
Let me take a shot at that, because one of the questions that's on the Regents list is about the centrality of, in this case, journalism to the mission, the larger mission of the campus. I think we've heard a lot about that question. Questioned about whether there are particular strengths. I think we've heard a lot about that question. I think what I haven't heard as much about, except for a couple of you, has been if there were some other organizational structure, and let's assume journalism is going to be a part of that new organizational structure, what would you like it to be able to do that you can't do easily now?
Well, I personally kind of agree with someone who spoke earlier. It'd be nice to work with other like bodies throughout the university. I at least haven't found that to be too easy yet. I also agree with what she said about needing to get out of some of these classes. I was a journalism major. I double majored in undergrad. One of them was journalism. So some of the classes that I'm in, I am sitting through the same information twice a week through 2 different classes. They're both teaching me like the same stuff because I'm doing print and broadcast. So I'm learning the same stuff that I learned through high school and through now. But I agree that it'd be nice to be able to work with other groups and within the university. That way we can specialize better, because that's what I would really like to do. And as it is, it's difficult for me to say, okay, well, I'm going to go write about horses and marine biology while staying within the confines of this program.
So actually, so we did talk about that this morning in talking with staff and with the undergraduate advisors in the school. And that is the option. You have a new undergraduate curriculum coming online, but one of the questions would be reconfigure or rethinking things in a way that would say, yeah, the double major option with some other major. Could be business, for example, or it might be something like biology for people who wanted to do, say, environmental journalism. So again, is that something, or again, lots of you are graduate students, particularly in professional programs, is that something that would be desirable to make easier for you to do, as opposed to that's not a priority?
I think so. I think a lot of people come here for a specific reason. Like one of my friends in the program, she specifically wants to write about fashion. And it's not, it'd be nice to be able to really focus on what we want to write about instead of what we have to write about.
Okay.
And like to be able to take other classes would be, I mean, so that you can learn more about what you'd like to do. Like as it is, you take classes in this school and you learn these skills, which are great skills, don't get me wrong. Like I like that we can learn these ethics and stuff here, but it would be nice to have the option to branch out a little bit more.
I think somebody else wants to get a word in.
As far as the perceived benefit of creating a new program, this ICT thing, whatever it becomes, it seems like one of the things that's stressed, at least informally, not officially necessarily, is the interdisciplinarity that it may provide. Now, I think that as far as the PhD program goes, there's already an aspect of interdisciplinarity that's built in, that we have a certain number of classes we take within the department and a certain number of classes that we go outside of the department to take. And so I don't know that structurally that's been a problem. Now, in practice, I think it can be a problem, but not a problem that's specific to the SJMC. For example, last semester I took a class in the studio arts department. This semester I'm in both the German class in the German department as well as a class in the English department. And it's been interesting that on both ends, both from within the SJMC and from the faculty and students from these other departments, there's an element of surprise that I would be interested in crossing those boundaries. You know, that my faculty, my advisors in the SJMC are like, really, you're going into studio arts? That's interesting. We haven't had students do that before, which is surprising to me because we seem to be doing very similar things. And in the same respect, my English professor, my German professor, and my studio arts professor all voiced kind of a surprise that I would be interested in doing what they're doing, which is also as interesting because it seems to be very similar. So as far as this new organization that's going to happen or may happen, encouraging interdisciplinarity, if that's the case, that would be wonderful, but I don't know that that should factor into the closure or potential closure of this program, because I see that as a problem that's across campus and probably across all university campuses. This claim to interdisciplinarity, but in fact we're not really talking to each other. So.
I'd just like to address the interdisciplinarity issue. The way the journalism school is set up right now, we can only take 80 credit hours within the journalism school. So that kind of forces interdisciplinarity. I know that a lot of that, the remaining credits are core classes, but it also, I know that the journalism faculty have encouraged students to take classes specific to a different discipline, not necessarily to double degree, but just to have more of a concentration in something so that you don't have a ton of knowledge, but you have a well-rounded education. I know that for myself, I'm doing the Technology, Arts, and Media program in the Atlas Institute, which, from my understanding of what the ideal is for this new school, would be journalism plus Atlas, and that already exists. Atlas doesn't have the resources to take every student who wants to be in the program. So for me, it feels like the most cost-effective thing or the most reasonable thing would be to provide Atlas with more resources, because then students from other disciplines can also take technology classes, because we all understand that the internet is the future, and we need to know these things. And so I think that we already have an interdisciplinary structure in the journalism school, and I think that in whatever happens in the future, that needs to stay in place and be encouraged.
Thank you.
Hi there. I'm Katie Schlicht. I'm in the pre-journalism major right now, and I'm also an intern at Snowboard Mag. And I guess I'm just here because I'm having a hard time figuring out the relevancy of a journalism degree. None of the people at the magazine even have a degree in journalism, and I came to this school because I wanted to be a journalist at a young age, and this was obviously one of the best ones in Colorado. But I trust that CU knows the best decision. I don't think running off to a different school that has a journalism school is a good choice, because then what if that school decides, well, we don't need that anymore because we want to follow Berkeley. So, I trust that CU knows that they're going to know a good direction to go in. It's evident that there's going to be a closing or revising, or maybe it's going to stay the same. But I'm just getting a little discouraged in the whole profession. Like, if we're even contemplating closing it, is there even going to be a legitimate profession in journalism? Like, before I spend all my money becoming the best journalist, then by the time I get out of school, what if there's not even any good degrees in journalism? And then I should have just listened in the first place. Like, why am I even going if it's being questioned?
Sam?
We are trying to educate ourselves in the committee about the larger questions facing the profession of journalism. I think the things that we've read, mostly thanks to Debbie's research to get us some good articles about that, is certainly that the profession is being transformed in part because of technology issues, in part because of the business of doing journalism is really changing very rapidly. Advertising is going out of print journalism. But nothing that we've read suggests that journalism is not going to continue to be a profession. Nothing says that journalists are going to somehow disappear from the earth like they've been struck by a deadly virus. So again, the question I think for us and for the larger campus is the way that the school is presently configured the best way of preparing you for future careers, preparing you as undergraduates, preparing you as graduates, preparing you as PhD students for a subject of study that is rapidly changing.
So then my question to you is, because I haven't got into the journalism school yet, should I wait? Because I don't want to be on the end of the old bandwagon, because if that's not how things are going to be, because we're changing it, because all these technological things are changing, should I just wait then and see the change so I can be on the beginning of the new bandwagon with the new technology, or should I get on the old bandwagon, which isn't the right way to go, obviously, or we wouldn't be here right now? Like, I don't want to spend money and then have all this old stuff and then I'm outdated.
Well, we don't think that we think the degree offered by journalism is a valid degree today. It's a valid degree tomorrow. You can keep watch of what's going on, and if you see something that's going to be created that's more interesting, then you would want to become part of it. But universities move pretty slowly. The odds that there's going to be some radically new alternative available during the time that you're here probably would come in kind of towards the end of your time, so it might be you would be able to take some advantage of it. But it's important to remember whether, it would not be nice to think that whatever happens at CU matters in the wide world, but just because, let's say we close down journalism altogether, that doesn't have any impact on journalism as a profession. We don't have a veterinary school. It doesn't mean there aren't veterinarians. We don't teach Pashtun and Urdu. It doesn't mean that there aren't programs that teach those languages and they aren't valuable. It's a question about the match between this discipline and its current configuration and the mission and strategic plan of this particular university. We can't solve the question of the future of journalism. We're going to have a hard enough time solving the question of the future of the school.
Okay, then I guess I'll stay in school.
I would.
Let me just add one more thing to this. So, Jeff said that our subcommittee, in reviewing the School of Journalism and Mass Communication, was charged to look at this under two criteria, budgetary and strategic realignment. There's a third category we could have been asked to review it on, and that's its educational mission. And we weren't, and I think that indicates that the Chancellor didn't have any question about the value of the current educational programs or the quality of the current educational programs. We weren't asked to weigh in or judge those. I think another thing that I think you've all heard, but I want to reinforce that our committee, if there was supposed to be some marching orders about some predetermined outcome, someone forgot to give those to me, so we don't have those. And as a starting point, there hasn't been any review of the School of Journalism and Mass Communication, any formal review that has found it in any way lacking or inferior, so that's not anything we've been charged with as sort of a starting point looking at this. It seems to be more of one at a process of here's an opportunity, and maybe seize the time and the day in looking at these things. So,
great points.
Hi, I'm Jason Raffle. I'm an undergraduate student in the journalism school, and I'm just going to give you a little background about myself. I've worked professionally in broadcast. I'm a broadcast production major, and one of the reasons I chose to come to a university like University of Colorado, and specifically the journalism school here, as opposed to going to some sort of technical school, which I certainly could have gone to because that is what my profession will be, is because of the context that a school like this gives you. And I really liked how the school meshed those two things together, the technological aspect, but also the historical context of journalism and the thought processes that modern journalists go through currently. And I think that's going to be important to me, and it also is going to set me apart from people who go to just technical schools. Because I do already work professionally in both the IT field and in broadcast, I already have those technical skills. I don't need to come to a university like this and spend, I'm out of state, actually from Texas, like a lot of us somehow. I come out of state, I pay a lot of money to get this degree because I feel that it will serve me better than spending that money in a technical degree. And so I think that that's one of the things, the unique things that this school has. And I think unique is an important word because you guys have mentioned that other schools have done this thing, like Berkeley got rid of their undergraduate program. And I just want to make sure that you guys understand that, or I'm sure you do understand that just because other schools did it doesn't mean that we shouldn't stay unique. Because staying unique can bring and will bring other students in like me. And as I said, I don't know how unique I am in coming in as opposed to a technical school. I know a lot of these people are going to be serious journalists who write, where I am an electron pusher, as someone put it. But I like the idea that I'm going to get that context and get that knowledge that a real journalism school brings. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Gates. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to talk to you guys and address some of our concerns. I'm sure you've listened to a lot of rants over the past few days, so this won't be too long, but I think kind of back on what some other people have said is one of the reasons that I really do love this program is that it does blend so well the aspect of journalism with the broadcast side of it, having, being available to different technologies and things like that, which obviously is what we have to learn at this point in the world, basically. You have to have both of those, and I think this program does a great job already of blending those, and I don't know what kind of revitalization you guys might provide that would do a better job. I already think it's done very, very well. I think that you guys have a great program and that we're given such great opportunities with various internships. I'm down in Denver, so in Denver, up here in Boulder, all along the Front Range, that in addition to the education that we're receiving both electronically as well as in the more writing aspects of the field, I think we are given such great opportunities to be able to do internships while we're in the program, which I think is great. And so a little about myself is I spent kind of the last year traveling outside of the U.S., mostly in third world nations across Central America, Africa, and Asia. And I did a lot of border crossings. And in those, the question that they always would ask and questions that they would keep you, I would not let you get your visa, is what is your occupation? And your occupation, if it was journalism, or journalist rather, that's something that those governments, especially ones that are a bit perhaps dishonest with their intentions for their populace, don't want journalists going in there. And throughout the course of history, it's been journalists that have shown corruption in political entities, have changed the way governments have run, and have brought about change to the people of nations, especially in the United States. I think that's something that we hold so dear to ourselves. And I think if it doesn't sound like there's been any clear, concise decision about what this perhaps revitalization would be, however, it sounds like there is a leaning towards maybe eradicating the word journalism in the title, and I think that would just be such a huge mistake. And I think it would be really detrimental to the university, to the amount of students that are going to come in that do want to study that. And I think that there's a lot of technology out there, and I think you can learn those skills in ways outside of the classroom. I don't think you can learn to be a good writer just because you have Facebook or you have Twitter and you can tweet things. I think that doesn't mean that you're well educated, doesn't mean that that's an accurate portrayal of the news. And I think a journalism program is pretty integral in, giving that to the readers and to the public. And I think you need accurate journalists in the country. So,
thank you.
Hi, my name's Rob Denton. I'm an undergraduate student freshman. I'm a direct admit to the journalism school. And this last summer I interned with a very experienced photojournalist. He has 50 or 60 years in the field, so I really trust his input. And he always told me throughout the summer that the jobs that we would have as freshmen and undergraduate students who are in college now will be the jobs that we create ourselves. And I think that's very important because it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to be truly experienced with technology. We don't have to have just a technological background. I think we need the fundamentals of the journalism, because anyone can go on the internet today, write whatever they want, but that doesn't mean that it's journalistic. That doesn't mean that it leads to a better society. In fact, when people go up there on the internet and other people read that, they may assume it's truth, and that leads to a more ignorant society. So we need that journalistic background. We need whatever jobs that we create ourselves need that true fundamentals of journalism to continue to have a great democracy. That's just my 2 cents.
Thank you.
My name is Paul Sampson. I'm a first-year grad student. I'm reporting for campus media, for campus radio, and so that's why I'm kind of doing that. And so I'll keep my opinions out, but I guess my first question is, if I email that address that's on the sheet, will it get to you with my concerns and that sort of thing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I was told before I came here, and I checked with more than one faculty member, because financially I really shouldn't be here. And I had a lot of health issues, and pretty much everything, my life savings went down paying for health issues and that sort of thing. And so I said, can I take 4 years, or how long do I need to complete my degree? That was my biggest concern, because I've taken a humongous risk knowing what's happened in the profession for a number of, I started in this profession in 1989. For a lot of years, for 11 years, I couldn't speak normally. I can barely speak now, but I couldn't speak normally, and so I did other things and I was miserable. I always wanted to be a reporter again. Had surgery 2 years ago. I can talk enough to do this again, and so that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. And so I guess my big concern personally is that more than one person on faculty said you'll get 4 years to complete your degree, because I'm planning to work to try to stay afloat. And I think you had mentioned, Mr. Cox, that you'll get at least 3 years to do that. But what happens if I can't complete the degree in 3 years? Will there still be classes to take the way that there are now?
I mean, I can't answer the question without knowing what the decision is, but it's if the Board of Regents were to decide to discontinue the program, at some point the current degree programs and current courses would go away. Would all of them go away? Would there be, if you're in your 4th year, could you find courses to complete your degree? I'm sure, I can't believe it wouldn't be possible. But at some point, I mean, we're going to have somebody else who says, well, it's going to take me 8 years to complete my MA degree. I mean, at some point, the university will say, look, we'll figure out independent studies, we'll figure out courses from somewhere else, but what you might thought you were going to take is gone because it's been changed. So we've made a guarantee for the normal completion of degrees. The university has every interest in your success, so I believe that you will find people working with you to make sure you can finish up. People in the doctoral program don't need to be concerned, because the doctoral program is actually a degree granted through the College of Arts and Sciences, even though it's staffed through the journalism school. So even if the School of Journalism and Mass Communication were completely eliminated, the doctoral degree is a degree in another college, so it's a freestanding operation.
As a master's student, which I am, and again, first year, will they keep at least the policy of you've got 4 years at least? Because that's what I was told before I came. I probably wouldn't have enrolled, quite frankly, had it not been.
So we didn't set a policy of 4 years. That's what your advisors in the school said. What the provost has said is he intends to keep the academic programs open until people can finish at a reasonable pace. The general figure that has been used is 3 years beyond this year. So if this is your first year, that would be 4 years.
Oh, I understand. Thank you.
So, but can I guarantee you that everything you're going to want is going to be available in that 4th year? I can't do that.
Sure. Okay, fair enough. And one other question, and I don't know if you can address this or not, but in talking, asking faculty and things like that, hey, what happened? And from watching what the press reported when all this went down, and I'm thinking specifically about the reporter, a very well-respected guy from Sports Illustrated, who was on TV saying we're going to burn down the school, and those sorts of things. And everyone tells, I don't want to get into rumors and innuendo, I really don't, but I guess so many folks in the school, from talking with them, seem to think that something else is bigger is going on. We know there was some sort of falling out with this gentleman from Sports Illustrated and the faculty. And I guess all I'd ask you to address is, can you maybe let us know what role did any kind of falling out or any kind of thing play with the discontinuation process of the school?
So the Chancellor indicated that there were two key factors that led him to begin these 2 processes. One was the report of the last year's College of Information Task Force, and the fact that there was a lot of work done by that task force, but its plan was not adopted by the campus. And the other was a letter from the School of Journalism and Mass Communications Advisory Board, that are people external to the school who are brought in as external experts and potential donors to the school, who wrote a letter to the Chancellor urging him to close the school. So those 2 events led him over the summer to contemplate how he wanted to move forward, and he decided to begin these 2 processes. And it's, again, we're here about program discontinuance. That's what we're about, but it's always important to remember there is another process that is about trying to figure out where we're going. So universities don't make the decision on the basis of individuals.
Fair enough. Thank you all very much. I know it's no fun for you to be here either, so thank you very much for doing that.
Is there anybody else who would?
So just one point, I think Professor Fitch, you said it might be beneficial for this committee to hear about potential benefits to joining kind of journalism with other programs. So I think there's kind of 2 aspects to that. The media studies aspect, which I think currently is something from undergrad up to PhD. So in that sense, I think there would be a great benefit to joining with some other related disciplines. I think media studies is inherently interdisciplinary, but it would benefit from kind of a institutionalization of that from the undergrad level up to the graduate level, because right now, as a previous student mentioned, it's kind of an ad hoc. You have to kind of make it yourself, and I think that there could be great benefit. We can't turn the whole university into one thing, right? That's already there, but in terms of, there are some definitely, I think, closely related disciplines and departments in communication and culture and things like that that could, I think, if they were all joined together in an actual kind of institutionalized way, would be a beneficial thing. I think combining both humanistic and social scientific aspects. And then second, I think there's the journalism aspect of it, which is more of a undergrad and then master's level issue. I think, so I have a bachelor's in journalism too, and then now I have graduate degrees and working towards another one in media studies. So I think that the study of journalism does benefit from having a kind of its own set. Here's the people who are really focused on becoming journalists, and I think that's something worthwhile. Just like there's a law school for people who want to be lawyers and things like that, right? But I do think that it could potentially also benefit from being housed in a place that would enable it to be less segregated. And so I think journalism education and journalists being educated would benefit from being, having opportunities to have a kind of more holistic or worldly education, just because we depend on journalists to be, the people who explain the world to us. And so if you have an opportunity to, to learn the skills that what it takes to be a good journalist, in addition to understanding the world yourself and making sense of that so you can try to make sense of it for other people, I think that would benefit from it. And so I think within a journalism school, one issue is that there's kind of inherently a tension between the media studies and the professional side of it, and we have that certainly because there's kind of they're around a central issue, but coming at it from two different perspectives. So I think potentially including both of those studies in a bigger program could kind of open that up to the media studies kind of aspect being connected to different departments, and the journalism aspect still having its core, its own identity, but also being able to connect students to these broader disciplines and studies of human society. That's my thoughts on that. If you have any, do you have a question, Sam?
Yeah, I was just going to say that the question about the insularity versus interdisciplinarity in journalism could also be asked at the business school. It could be asked about engineering. It could be asked about the law school. So those are not unique questions that we would ask just about journalism.
Thank you.
Hi again, just one point. Journalism as a profession, as a practice, is in crisis right now. As it's already been mentioned, for financial reasons, for whatever. I think that the response to that, instead of saying, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't teach it anymore, we should make an even stronger commitment to the mission of journalism, to the teaching of journalism, the purpose of journalism, what journalism means to a democracy. We should make an even stronger commitment to that, because it is in crisis. It is, under siege from, multiple forces. That's all I want to say.
Thank you.
I'd like to expand upon that. I meant to emphasize earlier that, the current scenario that we're in, it's a terrible financial time for everybody, and that, especially journalists. Everybody's heard about the newsroom cuts across the nation, but I think that's as Shannon just offered, that's a precise reason to invest in this school, because as other students have mentioned, we need to train professionals out there. There's plenty of amateurs providing content online right now that is incredibly distrustworthy, that is incredibly misleading, and we need to provide professional journalists out there to report on the issues that matter to us most and the issues that actually affect our lives, and that we're going to recover from this economic crisis, or none of our degrees are worth anything. So we need to prepare for the future, and preparing for the future is training journalists to present quality investigative reporting and actually provide a product that can benefit our lives rather than just entertain us for a few seconds.
Thank you.
Hi, pardon me. I'm Alan Sobel. I actually graduated from the university in 1980. But I wanted to say a couple of things. Listening to all the students that we've heard yesterday and today, I think these guys are awesome. I've been sitting here, these guys are just terrific, so I wanted to say that. Also wanted to thank you guys for taking your time for doing this. We know you have day jobs as well. But I had a question, and I wanted to kind of address this question to each of you, if I might. We've heard a lot of talk that the process that's set up for doing this, for dealing with these questions, is inadequate. The timeline is short. The criteria are not appropriate criteria. It's divided into two big processes. I'd like to know, as faculty members, if you felt that this process was inadequate. Could you report that? Could you report that as your report for this 60 days? Could you say, this is not an adequate process, this is not an adequate amount of time? Whatever you felt, if you felt that as a faculty member, could you report that back as the result of your discussions?
I think we could. I think it's almost certain from my perspective that there will be some complaint about having to think about the decision for this subcommittee and ultimately the program review committee, RPAC, under that 60-day deadline when we don't have the final report from the other committee. And so as we said earlier, it is possible that our recommendations will be in contingent form that say we recommend this if there is the opportunity to do X or to do Y. If not, then we recommend that. So again, it is not in the instructions or requirements of program discontinuance that this be a dichotomous recommendation or a dichotomous choice. I don't think any of us really feel like we're likely to be able to make that decision in a very short period of time. In principle, we could if we had to. And that's what the policy, that is the general regential policy, was adopted. But it was adopted really to give faculty governance and to give a larger public process to any decision by the regents to discontinue any unit. Okay? Could be a school, could be a program. Again, there are quite a number of departments, campuses rather, that have discontinued geography departments. It happens to be one of the strongest departments in its area at this campus. So the fact that other schools have discontinued it doesn't mean that we don't think it really is very productive to have a geography department here. So I don't think, they're not dichotomous decisions. We can, maybe even will, complain about the process. But I don't think, again, from our perspective, this is an unreasonable process, or again, if we thought that, I think we wouldn't be sitting here listening to you. We would be somewhere else or serving on some other committee.
Mike? To answer your question, I think I'm a fairly typical faculty member, and we'll say whatever we think.
We've all got tenure. So.
And in general, I mean, protesting against the process is protesting against a regentially affirmed policy, and the committee will do what the committee wants to do. My own recommendation would be to perhaps make recommendations about improving the process, but to opt out of the process would essentially mean the faculty's voice in decisions would be removed. So if at the end of 60 days the committee just stamps its feet and says, we didn't have enough time, we didn't have enough information, we're not going to tell you what we think, provost is going to say, fine, I've got your report, you told me nothing. I still have to make a decision, the chancellor still has to make a decision, the president still has to make a decision, the board still has to make a decision. This is the process by which the university community is heard, and I think it's incumbent upon the committee to take in that information and, to the best of its ability, make what is, as Sam says, is probably a set of contingent recommendations.
So I wasn't suggesting protesting the process or opting out, but as a faculty member, if you felt this way, maybe you don't feel this way, but as a faculty member, if you felt that the process was incommensurate with the task, if the process wasn't doing justice to the task, to so state that, and not to say, you know, we're going to stand by our feet or anything, but to say, I or we, however the case may be, don't feel that this was an appropriate process. We don't feel that for this kind of an institution, for an academic institution, that this, and for the kind of judgment on the issue that we're talking about, that we don't feel that this was an appropriate process, and we feel perhaps something else would be more appropriate.
Well, as Mike says, I'm sure the faculty will say, faculty are free to say whatever they wish.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Anybody? Last licks? Okay, if you think of something else you want to tell us, input@colorado.edu. If you have fellow students who couldn't be here, please let them know that they can contact us that way. Do be on the outlook for calls for meetings from the exploratory committee. They will want to hear from you as well. Once the work of this committee is done in early November, its report will be made public. And once the work of the other committee is done in early February, its report will also be made public. So as soon as the report has been accepted by the provost, it will be posted. So we're trying to run an open and transparent process, and as soon as those reports are completed, they will be available. Have a good day.